the second sefer of the Torah, known as the book of
Good morning.
Shemos.
Thank you.
Now, Shemos means names. Now, you all know that the English name goes back to Latin, goes back to Greek, is the book of Exodus. Now, that's an appropriate name because that's what the book deals with primarily, is the Exodus and the aftermath, giving the giving of the Torah, but the Exodus is the dominant theme, the birth of the Jewish people. So that's our question. Why are we calling it the Book of Names? Why is that? Why is that the title? Now, the simple answer is because it's the opening verse. That word Shmois appears in the opening verse. Ve'ele Shmois b'nei Yisrael. These are the names of the Jewish people. And as you know, a parsha is called, gets a particular name from a word that appears in the first pasuk of the parsha. Last week I read Vayechi because Vayechi is the first word. So Ve'ele Shmois, so it's called Shmois. But that answer obviously is not satisfactory, it's not enough. Because number one, if you're looking for a name, so the principle is the earlier in the verse, that's the word that you pick. So Bereshis is called Bereshis is the first word, Vayechi is the first word. Now there are some times where it's the second word. Vela told us Noach. That's the third word, Noach, and then told is the second word. We see it doesn't always follow that pattern. It's the second word of the third word. In other words, this parsha could have very easily be called Ve'ele, just like Vayetze is the first word he went out. Ve'ele and these. It's not a no less a bona fide word than any other word in the Torah. It could be called Ve'ele. Why skip the first word and call it Shmois? To identify it singularly as a parsha, Ve'ele is the perfect choice. We have Vayeshev, he dwelled. Vayetze, he went. Vayechi, he lived. Ve'ele, and these. But that word is skipped, is passed over, and the second word is chosen Shmois. So obviously, this is not just simply finding the first word as the label or tag to identify the parsha, because we're in cases like this one, we're skipping the first word. So clearly, it's intentional. And moreover, everything in Torah is precise to the nth degree, infinitely so. So if it's called Shmois, names, it's not just because that's a convenient word by which to identify the book and the first parsha, but because the word Shmois, the concept of a name, conveys what this parsha is all about. And for that matter, the entire book. It's called the Book of Shmois. And we have to understand why that is so. What is it about a name that makes it so significant, so much so that it's the name of the parsha, the name of the entire sefer? The answer is on the one hand, we're going to point out a paradox, and we've all pointed out in the past many times that all truth in some way must embody some tension, some paradox, if it is to be true. That's because God is the source of truth, because he is the truth. There is no other. And Hashem is the source of all things, including opposites, light and darkness, good and evil. So if we're going to finite and infinite, bli gvul and gvul, oir and keli, light and vessel, all of creation is essentially a binary system, positive, negative, of opposite poles, yes and no. Everything works that way. All of existence. It's a series of yes and no, or yes or no. positive, negative energies. So it's a binary system that God decided to create and produce. And the system, their poles, they pull in opposite directions, light, darkness, yes, no. Hence, if we're touching the truth, it's going to be some element. We're going to define the divine, in other words, in whatever we're discussing. There'll be some element in its manifestation that will carry the divine truth and therefore manifest in a tension or in a harmony of opposites. And the deeper the truth, the more transparent the truth, the more essential, the greater will be that fusion of opposites, that tension, that fusion, that harmony. And therefore, the subject at hand, a name. So, a name, on the one hand, is a very external tag component of the human being's existence. So much so that you don't need your name. A name is merely the means by which others will identify you, and you will identify yourself in contrast to somebody else because of your unique name. As Shakespeare said, what's in a name? The answer is nothing. It's just a tag, a means by which we consent to identify that which the name is a name of. On a desert island, you don't need your name. Well, eventually you start talking to yourself, so it's helpful. It's useful to have a name. But in theory, you don't. You can do just well without it if you're living in isolation. You need a name if you're interacting with the world, so you need a tag, a label, a number. That's on the one hand. It's very external and not necessary for the person himself or herself. That's on the one hand. On the other, Chassidus explains that your name, your Jewish name, now, when I say Jewish name, it doesn't have to be actually the Jewish language or even Hebrew. A name is whatever language it is, but that's not a subject for now. But what I'm saying, it's specifically a Jewish name, but not necessarily, not exclusively. Your name, by divine providence, the name that was given to you, the name that you choose, even, a person is the master of his own name. He can choose a different name. You can change your name halachically. Talking about your first name, for sure your last name, but your first name. But by divine providence, whatever name you end up with, at that particular time at least, and for most of us it's a lifetime, the name is connected to the very essence of your being. When I say essence, by that I mean not your intelligence, not your emotion, not your mind, your heart, but much deeper, the very core of your being, the very I is connected to one's name. Now that's a profound paradox that is difficult to grasp. A name is so external, and yet it connects to the deepest part of who I am, and that is that I am. Beyond my intelligence, my feelings, my knowledge, my experience, beyond any other description about me, the essence of who I am is that I exist. And the name is connected to that essential I am. We find this, yeah, question, Dave.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Rabbi, is this just for Hebrew names or also
I'm saying
English?
it's not only the Hebrew name, but it'll be more obvious in your Jewish name, but not necessarily. In other words, if a person was never given a Jewish name, so the halacha is whatever name you have, that's your Torah name. That's your name. It's nice to have a Jewish name because it just makes it all more transparent, and it's a very good idea and encouraged. But a name is a name, irrespective of what language it is. Many Jewish names are not Jewish; they're adaptations from local the local language. That it's true in Russia. My grandmother and my eldest daughter named after her. Chaya Shchera. Chaya is obviously a Jewish name, but Shchera is Russian, Polish.
Hmm.
That's her name. The Rebbe said Chaya Mushka. Mushka is not it comes from the root musk, uh,
Hmm.
a, a, uh, a perfume. In the Sephardic world, it's very common that the names are very French to begin with. To begin with. So it doesn't have to be the Hebrew language. It's the name by which, by consensus or your parents, whatever divine providence or you choose, the name that you identify yourself with. The paradox is, as external as it is, it touches the essence. Now, where do we see this? Two things. Number one, when a person faints, you shouldn't have to try this ever, but if a person faints and they can't wake the person, can't bring the person to. So if you whisper their name in their ear, this can often cause their arousal, their awakening. Why? Because when a person faints, what happens? The soul, to some degree, is withdrawn from conscious expression, manifestation in the body. It's not manifesting in the brain and the emotion, the physical movement. It's withdrawn inwards. That's fainting. Now, death is when, God forbid, it leaves altogether, but fainting is a withdrawal to some degree. And when you say the name, since you're drawing on the essence of the soul, you're summoning the very core of the person. So that causes an expression of everything that's part of that person, his consciousness and so on. And that can cause the person to reawaken, to project, re-manifest in the soul, in the body, only calling by their name. So we see, incredibly here, this paradox at work. It's on the one hand a very external part of me, but it touches my essence in a way that no conversation, no calling, no would help, or even treatment. Another illustration of the unique property of a name, inasmuch that it summons the essence. And that is as follows. I'll illustrate it with the famous Hasidic story that the Rebbe related once. It was the previous Rebbe that related it. The Rebbe was sharing it again in the context of this very discussion. The story is with the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, and his grandson, Rabbi Menachem Mendel, the future Rebbe, that Tzemach Tzedek would be the third Rebbe of Chabad. So the Tzemach Tzedek is a child, a little child, under 3 years old in this story, maybe younger, was sitting on his Zayda's lap, and the Zayda, Alter Rebbe said to him, "Where is Zayda? Who is Zayda?" So that's Tzemach Tzedek pointed to his face. So Zayda said, "That's Zayda's nose." Your boy's pointing to his nose. Then he touched his beard. Zayda, he touched the beard. He held the beard. Zayda. No, Alter Rebbe said, "That's Zayda's beard." So the child understood that he was getting nowhere by pointing to him. As a child would do. He jumped off his Zayda's lap and went to play. Was playing in the corner of the room, whatever he was doing. And then the Tzemach Tzedek gave a call, Zayda. Now the Rebbe turned to him. And that moment that he turned, the child said, "Oh, that's Zayda. Das is Zayda." What happened here? When he was called by the name by which he is referred to by this child, that moment when he turns, when someone calls you, friends, by your name, that's all. They just call your name. And you turn to them, with what are you turning? Just with your mind? Just intellectual interest? Are you turning only emotionally? Are you turning to them only a physical turn of the head? The answer is to all of the above? No. You're turning with your entire being. You're all present. For that moment, you're present down to the core of your very being. The next moment, when why you're being called is processed, then you'll engage. It's a physical thing, it's an intellectual thing, it's an emotional thing. Then your essence, your being is filtered and expressed through the specific engagement that that moment would is demanding, is eliciting. But that's the next moment, not the moment that you turn. The moment that you turn, you're open completely to the very core of your being. You turn because you don't know what it is that is asked of you. You're not filtered yet. There's no processing. You were just called, and so you turn with your entire being. Just hang on a second. So far, so good. Now, to get to our subject, our question. The parasha deals with Golos Mitzrayim going down to Egypt. Going down to Egypt is obviously not a metaphor, but it physically plays out the story of life. The soul comes down from heaven. Heaven is a place where there are no boundaries like there are in this world, no division. Heaven is, in all of its levels, boundless and infinite light of Hashem revealed to successive degrees ever higher. Coming into a body is Mitzrayim, a limited, finite physical body, a physical world, a physical place where everything is limited and there is conflict and division. No two things can occupy the same space. That's conflict right there. Where I am, you can't be. And where you are, I cannot stand. It's a world of division, a world of limitation. And as you all well know, Mitzrayim means just that. Meitzar means a constraint, a limit, a boundary. The soul comes down to the world. That's Mitzrayim. Now, here's the thing, friends. For the soul to be invested and fused with a physical, limited body, it is merely the most external glimmer expression of the soul that can be so contained in a body. The higher levels of our soul do not become contained by the physical body. They hover, as it were, beyond, outside the body's profound containment. What animates the body is the merest, the most external level of the soul. And yet, before the and yet, that's analogous to a name. A name is a very external part of me. I don't even need the name. The level of the soul that comes down to the body is the soul's name. It's external tag. It's a very marginal, very limited expression of what the soul really is that remains outside the body's confinement. So there's the analogy to a name. Very external part of me. That says very little about me because someone else could have the same name. They have exactly the same name, same first name, certainly. and even the same family name, your cousin. And yet, here's the thing, friends, like we said before, that by whispering the name in a person's ear, it summons the essence. Here's the huge paradox, the profound paradox, that the soul coming into a body as external and so less potent and powerful and deep as the soul is, the levels are outside the body. It's only here in this world that the very essence of the soul is unlocked. And that soul essence is not unlocked in heaven. Only here. Only here in the body. Through Torah and mitzvahs, through the struggle with the Yetzer Hara. It's in this world that the I am a Jew, the soul essence, the deepest part beyond my understanding and feeling, which the soul in heaven has in such rich and textured way, which we do not experience in this world. But what we do reveal, what we can reveal is, I am a Jew and one with God in a way that in heaven that can never be expressed and only here. And why? Only in this world because of the containment, because this world requires sacrifice, something in heaven that it's not even possible. There's nothing to sacrifice for. Everything is beautiful and revealed. And it's all about fulfillment and experience and delight and pleasure and basking in the divine light. But this world is a world of concealment and containment and challenge, pain, temptation. And a Jew remains steadfast despite all and committed to God and committed to Hashem's Torah and mitzvahs in order to summon that commitment. We've got to draw on the very essence. I am a Jew and it can't be any other way. It has to come from the deepest place. Because if it's only intellectually or emotionally motivated, then we're open to seduction for other intellectual and emotional and sensual experiences. To remain Jewish under every circumstance, to discover one's Jewishness in the tunnels of Gaza, what these precious souls revealed and accessed for the first time, many in their lives, and certainly never on such a level, is I am a Jew, embracing that. And what summoned it was the profound prison containment, the Mitzrayim of Gaza. And their readiness to sacrifice. My Jewishness, which was something they didn't even think about, many of them before. They were Israelis, but not Jews. They had an Israeli passport, but they weren't Jewish in their own words, and not all of them, but some of them were that secular, quote unquote, and yet there in the tunnel. No, I am. If you read the story of, I told the story, it was published in the early days of, her name will come to me, her name. And she ends up building a shul in her kibbutz Re'im, that didn't have one. Um, the story is being circulated again recently. The I am was summoned in the most external place, the most confined place, the place of the greatest limitation. That's the paradox of the name. It's a very limited expression of me, marginal, almost insignificant, and yet it's there, the soul in the body, that this deep, I'm Jewish, I am a part of Hashem, comes to the fore, is expressed in all of its beyond infinite glory. And that's the purpose of exile, of Golos, of Mitzrayim. It's to bring out the depth of the Jew, that the soul is a part of Hashem inseparably, and it's beyond all experience and rationale and understanding, and it's eternal, eternal, and forever. That truth is not expressed in heaven, because heaven is defined entirely about experience and light and love and understanding and appreciation, of which there is none of that in the tunnels of Gaza. What's left, stripped bare of every experience, is the simple I am a Jew. The name, yes, like Yeshua Pearl said, I'm Jewish before they beheaded him. I'm a Jew. That was his final words. Secular, traditional, New York Times journalist. That's why it's called the Book of Names. Ve'ele Shmois. It's the story of Golus Mitzrayim, of exile, and it's the story how in the end it's Dafka, the furnace, the crucible of Egypt, that the core Jewish identity is forged in eternal steel, forged in fire, indeed. But what emerges is the indestructible I am a Jew, beyond all rationale, beyond all reason, justification, beyond the world. That's why it's called the Book of Shemais. Okay, friends, there is more. God willing, we'll see you all next week. We come back tomorrow with Bezer Hashem. Back to Montreal. We were here for a simcha, the Obshernish of Menashe's Shire, after my father-in-law. Yeah.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. There should be only simchas and good news, and this exile should just, that's it. It's run its course. It's over. It's time now, and it's happening for the revelation of the essence of every Yiddish and neshama, the revelation of the essence, the eye of God, here in this world as we are one forever. Embracing the body, embracing the world, illuminating the world with that deep truth.